Welcome to Keeping the Lights On. I'm your host, Todd Reed, and on this podcast, I connect with the owners and pros who design, build, and maintain our electrical, communications, and industrial world to explore the best ways forward. Before I get into the show today, I wanted to bring up a way we can interact. If you use the Spotify app to listen, they now have a section in each episode that allows you to answer questions or polls. I'll be posting questions for every episode, so please take a moment to send in your thoughts. Lastly, it really helps the show when you subscribe and follow, then rate and review on your favorite podcast player. In this episode, we're going to discuss the talent gap in the information, technology, and communications world and what we can do to help recruit new talent. And then we turn our attention to what those who are seeking a new opportunity can do to get involved in the industry. My guest to cover this topic is Jennifer Roback, a director, global systems engineer at Commscope. Prior to joining Commscope, Jennifer was with Praxis Computing and PlanNet Consulting in various IT management, sales engineering, project management, and infrastructure design positions. She also served on advisory boards for Cisco Systems, Ingram Micro, and Apple Computer. She is an RCDD, PMP, and CCNA. Don't worry, we'll dive into what all those mean later. Jennifer holds a BA from the University of California, Riverside and a Master of Business Administration Leadership from Creighton University. Let's get into the show. One of the goals of the show is to bring our industry together to share new ideas. And so I start each episode with the meals that bring us together. So Jennifer, if I were to visit you, where might you take me and why would you choose this place?
So I think I would take you to a place that's here in Santa Monica, California, where I live, that is right across the street from the beach. It's called Blue Plate Oysterette, and it's right across from the beach. So you get these great seafood, even if you don't like oysters, and it's just this beautiful, iconic view of the Santa Monica beach, and then you can see the Santa Monica Pier. So it's something that you would have seen in a picture, and it's kind of cool. And it's also a really groovy place, and they're just really nice and fun. So it would be something special. I love to take people that are out of town to something that's a local restaurant. Don't go to a chain in any city ever, for sure. Yeah, and for my friends that might be listening in New Orleans who say you cannot have oysters in Santa Monica, you have to have them in New Orleans, no doubt. So the Acme Oyster House in New Orleans is probably the greatest place to have it. But
Wow, okay. That would be a little easier for me to get to. I just drive down the Mississippi to it. Okay, well, as good as the food may be, I am sure that restaurant has struggled at some point in the last 3 years with staffing because restaurants all over the country have been and still are for a variety of reasons. But this is also true in the information technology and communications industry that you're involved with. For example, on the electrical side of installing, like for every 10,000 people that are retiring each year, there's only 7,000 entering the field. And I'm sure this industry is the same. I just wonder if you could spend a few minutes talking about the struggles that the structured cabling industry is facing in regards to staffing qualified personnel.
well, and I think you bring up a really great point is that there's a similar statistic on the structured cabling side where in the next 10 years it's projected that roughly 55% of the working population today will be retired or retiring in the process of retiring. So a 50%, greater than 50% turnover, not a good look. That's really would if I owned that business of structured cabling, and I thought I would lose 50% of my staff, uh, that would give me great pause. And for those of us in the industry, we should absolutely be aware of that. I think that's a big challenge for lots of reasons. You have so much knowledge and experience walking out the door, but you also have that culture of understanding what our industry was built on. And our industry is built on exploring standards and coming up with standards to make sure that the technology that we're installing works under multiple applications and developing applications. So standards are really important to our industry, and that's something that many of us that have worked in the industry for so long really understand. Also, two things around best practices. So I think we're definitely going to face a staffing shortage. Also, too, a lot of the colleagues that I talked to today that are kind of that anchor of their business, they're working more hours than ever. So that's really a challenge. So I think some of the other issues that we face is burnout. So that may actually even accelerate that number of retirement. Is that working 50, 60 hours a week is not a sustainable thing for most people. And so I think that's something else that our industry is facing. And then it's a struggle to recruit new folks into the industry.
So why is it so critical that the industry focus on getting new talent?
Well, I think I sort of alluded to that we're going to have a gap, a huge gap in talent in the next 10 years. As we are leaving the industry, as folks are leaving the industry, they have the ability to pass on that knowledge, those lessons learned. But I also think that it's critical that we continue to develop the talent pool so that they come in and bring in new ideas. What's the next new cool thing? The industry that we are a part of supports ever increasingly a significantly important infrastructure that all of us depend on, right? So uh, think about where you, if you're going to go and you're going to make dinner reservations at Blue Plate Oysterette, you're not going to call them. You're going to do it on your phone. You're going to go to Open Table app, you're going to do it on the Yelp app, and you're going to do that. That's to make dinner reservations. You're using technology. You're going to need to park, and believe me, parking in Santa Monica is really no fun. So you're going to need an app to be able to do that. Again, on your cell phone to park your car. So and then you'll need to check your bank account because Blue Plate Oysterette is not inexpensive. So you'll need to make sure that you have money in your account to be able to pay for your dinner. You're going to use your cell phone again. My point is that we have integrated technology so much into our lives that we depend on it as consumers, but also the underlying businesses. The city of Santa Monica to collect their parking revenue, Blue Plate Oysterette to be able to get reservations and process the money that you're giving them. And then if you expand it out into schools, during COVID, obviously, many schools across the country were 100% online. So again, integrating that technology expectation um, for education, something that maybe was not part of the overall setup of school, is now a requirement. And I would argue that technology permeates through every part of our life. Why we need to bring this talent in is to make sure that we're advancing that technology forward. We're making progress. We're making lives easier. We're able to better leverage technology. We're able to invent new technologies that we can't even think of today to continue to advance that quality of life. All of those apps, all of the data, and all of the communication sits in a data center somewhere, and it's
Yeah.
going to touch a wire somewhere. So even the wire that goes out to the wireless device that then broadcasts it through the cell network, there's cables all over the place. The next time you drive by one of those big cell towers, look at the bottom of the tower and look at all of that cable that goes up. That, oh my God, bless those people that install that. That looks like a terrifying job. But for, that would be installing that cable and then maintaining those systems. That's great skilled labor.
Imagine a world, I don't know, 5, 10 years from now, let's say 10, where the talent gap is solved. What does the world look like to you?
So my perfect world is that it looks different than today because it's a more diverse workforce, and diverse in every sense of the word, not just but it's age diverse, it's gender diverse, it's background diverse, meaning diverse ideas. And that to me is the beauty of diversity. The promise truly of diversity is just different ideas. If somebody can find a better way to do something that advances the technology forward that we can all benefit from, that's exciting. I think that would be so compelling and we would all benefit from it. So that's what the world looks like 10 years from now, is that there's different ideas and we're not stuck in having to do things the same old way and try to cobble things together because we're restrained by we've always done it this way. We've always done it this way is the death of innovation.
All right, as we move through this conversation, we're going to look at this from the perspective of two groups of people. One, the current generation of workers that are thriving and loving the industry that they're in, and they may be looking at retiring or perhaps just retired. And then those with experience that are currently maybe looking for help. And the second group we're going to be looking at are those looking for an opportunity. Those either young or looking to move to a more fulfilling career, transitioning out of one career to another. Well, let's start with the legacy or current generation. What are some things that they can do to help get the new talent into the industry?
I would challenge anyone who's in that position today, who's thought leadership today, who's doing designs today. You didn't get there on your own. You didn't come out fully formed. You got there because you had mentors, people that pulled you along. I'm so grateful to all of my mentors who have gotten me to this point where I am today and continue to get me there. Continue to push me forward. Mentoring is so key, and I think mentoring, if done correctly, is also very satisfying for both parties, for both the mentor and the mentee. So I would say if you're working in a design firm today, grab one of the newbies, pull them along, show them some of the stuff that you've done. Tell them the why. Why do we do it this way? What did you learn? Share with them not only your successes, but your failures and what you wish you would have done differently. Or this is why we do it this way because I failed here, here, and here. I think that's so key. So that's an easy one. If you're working at a contracting firm, grab one of the new technicians and show them why. Explain to them. I think it's fun. Not everybody's into the mentor thing, but I think mentors is a big one. uh, Organizations can do things like show up at the Women in Engineering Club or the engineering club at a 2 year or a 4 year university. Go to one of their meetings and speak about our industry. I think those are things that you can do. Get involved in your own kids' class. They always have the, come to school and career day, right? And I am guilty of this as well. Is I think, "Oh, nobody wants to talk about cable. These kids have, they've got the policemen and the firemen and where I live, the screenwriter and all of that. So I feel like it's a competition. It's not. It's not a competition. So help these other kids understand that path. We talked earlier about they don't even know that this industry exists. And so I think that's how you get the word out there.
So when you and I were doing our pre-interview chat, you shared a story with me about actually a gray bar employee and their son. That was kind of a perfect illustration of this in action. I wonder if you could share a little bit about that story.
So, and this is a great story. So, this is a contractor firm here in Southern California, roughly 120 employees, and they hired a young man as a CAD operator, and he had started at the same time in an internship program with this company. While he was going to a 2 year AA degree, got his degree in CAD design, and now he's running the CAD department for this company. So, and this company, that's not their own. That's not the only success story. They had a guy who started as a technician, and now he's running all the project scheduling. So, uh, for the whole organization, and he started as a tech. So they're a great example of bringing in that fresh talent, giving them a chance, showing them the ropes, giving them the ability to grow, and then they remain loyal to that company that gave them the opportunity. So it allows the company to grow, it allows the company to benefit. You have employees that are dedicated to the success of that company. What's in it for the employee is, wow, they're seeing career advancement. That's what most workers really want, is they want their work to matter and they want an opportunity to advance and better themselves. So I think it's a win-win for everybody.
You and I both work for pretty big companies and we have intern programs. It's a little easier because we have a whole HR department. kind of set that things up. What can a smaller company do to, you know, help in this when they may not have, all those departments to help them?
So I think even as a smaller company, as you're bringing on new people, are you open to hiring someone who has aptitude? Basically, do they have the ability to do this and do they have the desire? They may not have the experience. So if you have someone who has the right attitude, you can teach them the technology. And so be focused on that and be less focused on what their years of experience may or may not be. Because remember, if it's an entry level position, how are they going to have years of experience? That's always a tough one, right? Like you can't say entry level experience or entry level job and 2 to 5 years of experience. Well, hold on, those two things don't compute. And that's very common. So I would argue for a smaller company, really focus on someone who may be a diamond in the rough, someone who has the right attitude and the aptitude. They just don't have the experience. You can develop and grow that person. Not every time it's going to pay off, but more often than not, I think that's where you're going to develop that growth person. So I think that's one way a small business can do that. You're already recruiting people, just maybe look at that process that you're doing as you bring in new technicians. Another thing I think that they can do is get involved at your local community college. Almost everywhere, like so, for example, where I am in California, um, there are so many community colleges. Find out what local programs they have. Even if you go and reach out to the teacher that's teaching the CAD program, go in and talk to the class. You might get something. Might get an interested party after going in and talking to the class, or at least let the teacher know that you're recruiting people and you're looking to hire a technician. They might have a suggestion for you. So those are two things that I think that you can do that don't take up a lot of time. I think that's the challenge with small businesses, and having run a small business myself, you never have enough time, and everything seems to take so long. And I'm so busy working in the business, I don't have time to work on the business. Those are two things that I think you can do to help grow your talent pool with a minimum amount of investment time. I'm going to say, don't always go with the comfortable. And when it pays off in a big way.
Okay, well, let's switch our perspective now to those that we're kind of talking about, those that are interested in joining the industry. So what is the education process? You've kind of touched on this and you kind of answered this a little bit, but where do I even go to learn about this, and how much debt will I have coming out of it, and all that?
Yeah. So, first of all, everybody's path is different. And I think you made the comment um, that many of us are in this industry today kind of by accident, right? Is we sort of fell into this. But folks that are looking to be more purposeful, I would say be open to all the different opportunities. But I think are interested in this, one path is community colleges. There are a ton of community colleges that offer CAD or Revit or any of these specific software programs. That's one way to go. Another way to go is there's some community college programs that focus on building maintenance, for example, how to do building
Mm.
maintenance. And yeah, there was a whole program at LA Trade Tech College about doing that, and I thought that was very interesting. And you could learn about how to do that and go get into that side of the business, which would obviously then have paths leading up to then eventually managing multiple properties if that's what you want. It doesn't have to be that, right? I mean, I think you can make a living and support your lifestyle all along these different stops, right? So maintaining a building, to designing the building. There are lots of opportunities at community college. um, there are opportunities we've talked about, going to get in at a technician level, entry level in a company that really focuses on mentoring and growing their people. I think that's a great place to go, to really look at what else is out there. So I think those are things. The other thing is if you are at either the 2-year or the 4-year college, you can go to these club meetings, the engineering meetings, outside of class, and really start to dig in and find out what other opportunities are there. I think those are a couple of good places to go. A lot of these places will have job fairs, and they'll even have, like internship programs. Also, too, Bixie has a mentor program as well. So you can go to Bixie's website, and which is bixie.org for those of you that don't know that. You can go and find out how to get a mentor assigned to you and have somebody help you get in the industry that way. So I think there are a fair number of paths. Education, I would say, you do not need a 4-year degree to be in this industry. And for some of us that do have 4-year degrees, I will be totally honest, my degree has nothing to do with what I do today. So um, it, it doesn't, you don't have to go that route. And I think that's one of the benefits of this industry, is that there are lots of opportunities to build a career and a life without having to incur huge college debt, which, if anybody who's paying attention to that whole issue that's facing a lot of people now, many people have gotten into debt and are struggling to pay that off. So
Yeah. Well, so we've talked about schools and degrees. In your intro, I listed some of the certifications you have, but I did not define what they were because I said we'd cover them later. So let's talk a little bit about certifications because they're pretty important to the industry. So you could spend a little bit of time talking about what those are, kind of the acronyms and what they mean.
And that's a great point, Todd. Thanks. The certifications, I think, are important, and they're probably more important than the college degree. So the first one that I think is really sort of that I would say is the industry standard in structured cabling is uh, the Bixie certification, RCDD, Registered Communication Distribution Designer. And this is offered through Bixie, which is an independent organization that focuses on educating the community about standards and technology. And they're the ones that offer this certification. You can take preparatory classes to be able to pass the exam. And it really covers how to design a structured cabling system to support the applications for today and in the future. This is a very important recognized standard and certification that allows for the technology to work and gives a standard reference for design and
So
how it should be done.
real quick, Bixie is the initials are BICSI. If someone was looking at, I will be putting the links in the show notes, so we don't have to get into all that. But because someone might be starting to look it up, like what is that? So anyway, that's Bixie. So
Thank you.
what? Yeah, yep. And what are some of the other?
Oh, so the PMP is the project management certification. That is a valuable, and that's the PMI Institute, Project Management Institute, and that is also an independent organization that focuses on standards around project management. That is a valuable certification as it would apply to many areas of telecommunications. So, for example, it's very generic in the sense that when you're managing a project, whether it's an installation project of cable or an installation of servers, now routers, uh, and data center infrastructure, right? So it could cover the whole gamut. I've used that certification when when I ran my own IT services business, and we would use it for upgrades and implementation of projects, software projects. So it gets used in development as well. So it's an excellent broad certification that is applicable in many different fields. Um, and then the MBA is self-explanatory. I think that I think was just I was mostly curious, and it was during COVID, and so I needed something to do. But I do find that that's actually been very helpful as well. And I I would encourage folks that are in that stage of their career where they think that information would be valuable. There is definitely some valuable information there as well.
Another one that we've talked about and that I see mentioned a lot is the Cisco Certified Network Associate, and Cisco again, just for the listeners who may not be familiar, CISCO. So what is that one about?
So the Cisco Certified Network Associate is obviously offered through Cisco Systems, and it's basically about the design and the way IP networks work. Um, it's been a minute since I did that, but the what I found so valuable about that exam and the knowledge behind it is it really explains how networks work and how data ends up going from point A to point B. It's very valuable in the structured cabling world so that I can understand why the transmission didn't get from point A to point B. So it's really good from a troubleshooting standpoint. It's also really good for me because it helps me understand when I'm talking to my customers what they're trying to accomplish with their networks. Um, so that is also a good certification to look at. Many companies like Cisco, Microsoft, um, and on offer their own specific certifications. My recommendation to people when they're getting started in the industry, unless you want that vendor specific certification, is look at independent certifications. That's why I've always been such a champion of the Bixie certification is it's not tied to a particular manufacturer. With that being said, if you know that you want to work on networks, you look at the big players in the network world and find out who's offering those certifications, then that makes sense. But by and large, I would say stick with independent certifications unless you have a specific desire and you know that's what you want to do.
Well, so how does can I get those certifications just on my own, or do I need to be at an installer, or how does that work? All those that you've mentioned, from the Bixie to the manufacturers and all those.
So all of those you can get on your own. All of the ones that I got, I did on my own. It wasn't sponsored by by a particular company. You can go to their individual websites. Look at there will be prep classes offered by Bixie or that organization. There will always be third party classes. My recommendation before you take a third party class to prep to take the exam is get a recommendation from someone. So if you don't know someone who's taken the PMP, go to LinkedIn and post, "Hey, I'm thinking about taking this third party class. What do people think?" Take a look at those. Definitely look at references. You can also Google it. Obviously, you can figure that out. But I would strongly recommend that before you take a third party class, because they can be quite expensive to be able to do that. Take a look at what's out there. Also, too, if it's a certification offered by the manufacturer, do they have training that you have to pay for, or is it free? Do a little bit of research on that. Also, to see if there are practice exams out there, and if those cost money as well. But these are things that you do not need to be affiliated with a school or a university or a company to be able to do.
One of the things, audience, that I like to do is to ask some more icebreaker questions that I may or may not share on in the actual interview. And one of the questions is, I say, Jennifer, tell me what advice you'd give to 18-year-old Jennifer. And I really liked her answer, and it really tied in well with the topic. So, Jennifer, can you share your answer that you shared with me?
Yeah, so I would say just go for it. Stop worrying about what am I supposed to do next? What is this going to look like? And just go for it. And it'll all work out. It'll all work out. And don't be so linear and prescriptive in your path. Is jump on the next opportunity that looks good because it's going to take you to something else. That'll take you to something else. For me, I didn't. Some people know what they want to be when they're 12 years old. I was not that person because I'm interested in a lot of things. I'm curious about a lot of stuff. And I've had some really fantastic opportunities. I've met some amazing people. I've really grown as a person, as well as as a professional, by taking chances and learning from others. That's been one of my shining spots that I look on so fondly, is all of the mentors that have helped me along the way. And if I had been so prescriptive in my path, I would have missed those gems and those opportunities.
I mean, I think you went to school because you wanted to get into teaching, right?
Yes, so that was my plan. So I was a history major with a minor in political science, which um, you're not there's not a lot of things you're going to do there, right? You're going to go to law school, and I didn't want to do that. So, but I really had a passion for teaching, and that was my original plan. And one thing led to another. I got involved working in IT, and I found that I really loved that. And there's an element of teaching in IT, right? Is you're going to teach those around you how to leverage that technology, how to make their businesses better. And so I find that at this stage in my career, I'm teaching. It's just not up in a classroom setting. So maybe I have the best part of it.
Talk about the importance of mentorship in your career and like how it's helped you on this journey.
When I got started in IT, was a long time ago, and it was sort of the Wild West in that sense. And a smart young kid could come in and really help businesses drive that. There was that expectation that you didn't need to have a degree in it. You didn't need to. You just needed to understand how to get that business to be able to leverage that technology. And part of what helped me do that were mentors. So I got started actually in IT, in structured cabling, of all places, from an architect. And we had been hired to do a, a company had money to build out a beautiful office space, and we supported their computers. Well, the architect came in and said, "You need to put together all their cabling." Well, we didn't know what that meant. And so immediately, and this was before you could Google anything, that's how long ago that was, right? So, how we figured it out was started asking other people. What does that mean? What do we do? What have you done? We called, and this is how long ago this was. Call the local phone company, the Pac Bell, which doesn't even exist anymore, right? And there were building engineers there that had been designing this technology for a very long time. I asked those guys, how do I do this? We need to design this, and I don't. It has to work. So mentors from that point. Also, other mentors have really seen stuff in me and said, "Hey, you've never considered this, but I think you'd be great at that." The company that I work for today was 100% put in front of me by a mentor, um, because he said, "I think you'd be great at it." And I will never forget what I said to him. They pay people to do that? So, and that was almost 15 years ago. So, mentors have really driven my career, have helped me learn. And the only way that works is to be open to ask. Raise your hand and ask for help. Raise your hand and say, "I want to learn this. I want to understand this." And that's why I said at the beginning of the call is almost all of us in the field are here because of someone else, and we've learned from someone else. So now it's our turn, if we're not doing it, to turn around and and pull the next people up with us.
Well, Jennifer, we're near the end of our conversation. I always like to close out by refocusing on the why of what we do. So, what motivates you to do this day in and day out? What keeps you excited and passionate about what you do?
I love working with customers. At the end of the day, a customer comes in and says, I have this problem, and I need, I'm here, and my business needs to get to here, and I don't know how to do that. Can you help me?" Oh my gosh. Like that makes my whole week it makes my whole month when a customer says, "Help me get there because I don't get it." Or I get part of it, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. Can you help me get there? Um, my job right now is I support salespeople as well within my company. I love when they come to me and say, "We have a problem. And how do I get there?" I just get a charge out of helping people and watching the lights go on when they get it and they say, "Wow, okay, I hadn't thought about it in that way. That's really cool. I can take that technology, solve a business problem, be a hero inside my organization." And that's just great. I think that's so much fun. That's why I keep coming back. Right? That's why you file those weekly reports of what you're doing, so that you can get to that next moment, right?
Yep.
And I love that. I also love technology. I love to see where the industry is going. Um, that for me is really exciting, and I think that technology has made our lives so much easier, and allows us really to kind of refocus. It gives us the ability to offload some of these rote and mundane, and connect with each other as people and spend our time doing wonderful things instead of all the rote and the mundane.
Well, Jennifer, it's been fun having you on here. You've got great energy, and I'm energized. So I appreciate that you sharing that with me and with the audience. And it's been great to have you on the show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's fun to have a good conversation, Todd.
That was my conversation with Jennifer Roback, Director Global Systems Engineer at Commscope. You can connect with Jennifer and what she is working on by heading to the links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, you can help us grow the show by leaving a 5-star rating in your favorite podcast player. Again, if you use the Spotify app to listen, they now have a section for each episode that allows me to ask you a question. I'll be posting them in each episode, so take a moment to send in your thoughts. Thanks for listening to this episode of Keeping the Lights On. We'll see you next time.